Mankind never forgets a favor, and their revenge shatters planets the dead of stars. The alarm screaming through the Endeavor's hope meant one thing. They were all going to die. Captain Alina Vasquez stood on the bridge watching red warning lights flash across every console. The main engine core was collapsing. Not failing slowly where they might have time to fix it, but collapsing completely. The quantum drive that pushed them through space was tearing itself apart. And when it went, it would take the entire ship with it. Alina looked at the faces of her crew. Young Lieutenant David Park at navigation, his hands shaking as he checked the numbers again. Chief Engineer Maria Santos at the engine station, her face pale with the knowledge of what was coming. Communications Officer James Wong was already preparing emergency messages that would probably never reach anyone in time. Behind them, in the massive colony sections of the ship, 22,000 people slept in cryopods. Families who had sold everything they owned for a chance at a new life on Aurora Prime. Children dreaming of a world they would never see. Scientists and farmers and teachers who trusted Alina to deliver them safely to their new home. How long? Alina asked. Her voice stayed steady even though her heart felt like it was breaking. Maria looked up from her screens. 30 hours, Captain? Maybe less. The containment fields are degrading faster than our models predicted. When they fail, the quantum reaction will vaporize everything within 10,000 kilometers. 30 hours. Less than 2 days for 22,000 souls? Alina had been a military captain before taking this colonial mission. She had faced combat and danger and impossible odds, but she had always found a way through. Always found a solution. This time, there was no solution. The nearest human outpost was 4 days away at maximum speed. The nearest rescue ship was even further. Send out distress calls on all frequencies, Alina ordered. Standard colonial emergency codes. Include our position, our situation, and the number of people on board.
Already broadcasting, Captain James replied.
But there's nothing out here. We're in deep space between systems. No colonies, no stations, no traffic lanes. Alina sat down in her command chair. She thought about recording final messages. Thought about waking the colonists so they could say goodbye to each other. Thought about her own family back on Earth who would receive a message months from now telling them she died in the dark between stars. Keep broadcasting, she said quietly, until the power dies. The hours crawled forward like years. The engineering team worked desperately, trying every possible repair. They managed to slow the collapse by 6 hours. It was not enough. It would never be enough. The crew moved through their duties like ghosts, each person dealing with approaching death in their own way. On the second day, something impossible happened. Captain, James called out, his voice sharp with surprise. I'm receiving a response to our distress signal. Alina stood up quickly. From where? There's nothing out here. I don't know, ma'am. The signal is coming from coordinates that show as empty space. And Captain, the transmission is not using any human frequency or language I recognize. What do you mean? James worked frantically at his console. The signal is pure energy, modulated in ways our systems have never encountered. But the computer is detecting patterns. It thinks it can translate. Do it. The bridge speakers activated. At first, there was only a sound like wind chimes and distant music. Then, slowly, words formed. The voice was gentle, like sunlight turning into sound. We hear your call for help. We are coming. Do not fear. Lena felt her breath catch in her throat. This is Captain Alina Vasquez of the human colony ship Endeavor's Hope. Who are you? Can you help us? We are the Seraphim. We travel the spaces between worlds. Your ship is dying. We have what you need to save it. We will arrive in 8 hours. 8 hours. They had maybe 20 hours before the core went critical. If these beings, whoever they were, could actually help, there might be a chance. But Alina had to know. Why would you help us? She asked. You don't know us. We have nothing to offer you in return.
Ow.
The response came after a pause. All life is precious. All thinking beings deserve to continue their journey. We help because it is right to help. We ask nothing in return. The Seraphim's ship arrived exactly 8 hours later. Alina watched it approach on the view screen and felt wonder replace her fear. The vessel was nothing like human designs. It looked like a living thing, all flowing curves and surfaces that seemed to shift between solid and energy. The hull glowed with soft light that pulsed in colors Alina had never seen before. The ship was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the Endeavor's Hope, and it moved through space with impossible grace. "They're requesting permission to dock," James reported. "Granted." "Open docking port 3. Alina went down to the docking bay with her senior officers. She did not know what to expect. Aliens were still theoretical to humanity. There had been no confirmed contact with other intelligent species. Now, in their darkest hour, they were about to meet beings from another world. The airlock opened. The beings that entered were beautiful beyond description. The Seraphim were tall and slender, standing about 7 feet high. But they were not entirely physical. Their bodies seemed to be made of pure energy that had taken humanoid shape. Light flowed through them in patterns that reminded Alina of auroras dancing across night skies. Their faces were elegant and serene, with large eyes that glowed with inner radiance. When they moved, it seemed to float more than walk. The first Seraphim approached Alina and inclined its head in what might have been a bow. When it spoke, its voice resonated directly in her mind. "I am Luminant Suvdon, speaker for our vessel. We have brought what you need to repair your quantum core. May we work with your engineers?" Alina found her voice. "Yes, please. Thank you. We have less than 12 hours before the core explodes. We know. Come, there is no time to waste." What followed was the most extraordinary night of Elena's life. Luminant Suvdon and 5 other Seraphim worked alongside Maria Santos and the human engineering team. The beings moved through the damaged reactor sections without protective suits. Their energy forms unaffected by the radiation that would kill humans in minutes. They brought materials humanity had never seen. Crystallized quantum matrices that could stabilize the collapsing containment fields. Energy conduits that channeled power in ways human physics could not explain. And they worked with a knowledge and skill that left the engineers speechless. Maria and Luminant Suvdon developed a strange friendship during those desperate hours. Despite the differences in their biology and technology, they understood each other perfectly. Both were engineers at heart. Both spoke the universal language of solving problems and building solutions. "Your species is young," Luminant Suvdon said, as they worked to install a new quantum regulator. "But you have clever minds. You build good things." Maria smiled, her hands steady as she welded connections under the Seraphim's guidance. "We're still learning. We've only been traveling between stars for 200 years. Compared to you, we're children playing with toys. All species were young once. The important thing is that you reach outward. You explore. You seek new horizons. This is good. How long have your people been traveling space?" Luminant Suvdon was quiet for a moment. "We do not measure time as you do, but by your counting, perhaps 50,000 of your years." Maria's hand stopped moving for a second. 50,000 years? Humanity had not even invented writing 50,000 years ago. These beings had been crossing the galaxy when humans were still living in caves. And in all that time, Maria asked carefully, "You've just been helping other species. No wars? No empires? No conquests? We have no desire for such things. We exist to witness the universe and to help life flourish. When we find suffering, we ease it. When we find need, we fill it. This is our purpose." The work continued through the night. The Seraphim provided quantum cores that would have taken humanity decades to manufacture. They gave these materials freely, without hesitation, without asking for payment or favor. When human engineers grew tired, the Seraphim worked on. When equipment failed, they repaired it with their own energy. 10 hours after they arrived, the reactor hummed back to life. The containment field stabilized. The quantum drive cycled up to full power. The lights on the Endeavor's Hope burned bright again. 22,000 lives were saved. Elena stood in the docking bay and watched the Seraphim prepare to leave. An elder Seraphim named Radiance Through Stars approached her. The ancient being's energy form had faded to softer colors, and it moved with great dignity. "Thank you," Elena said. The words felt too small for what she wanted to express. "You saved us all? How can we ever repay you?" Radiance Through Stars' face shifted through several colors before settling on a warm gold. "There is no debt. We did what any good being should do. Perhaps someday, when you encounter others in need, you will do the same." Elena shook her head. "No, there is a debt. Humanity does not forget kindness like this. I do not know how or when, but if your people ever need help, if you ever face danger, we will come. I give you my word. I swear it on everything I hold sacred." The Seraphim elder seemed to smile, though its face did not move the way a human face would. "Your words are kind, Captain Elena Vasquez. But we have lived in this galaxy for longer than your species has existed. We have learned to avoid danger. We need no weapons, no warriors. We are content to wander the stars and help where we can." "Even so," Elena said firmly, "remember this. Remember humanity. Remember that we owe you everything. If you ever need us, call for us. We will come, no matter how far, no matter the cost. We will come." Radiance Through Stars placed a hand on Elena's shoulder. The touch was warm and filled with a strange comfort. "Then we will remember, Captain. Farewell, may your colony thrive." The Seraphim ship pulled away, its living hull glowing softly as it accelerated into the darkness between stars. Elena stood at the viewport and watched until it disappeared completely. Behind her, Maria Santos approached. "We're back on course for Aurora Prime, Captain. All systems are functioning perfectly. Better than perfectly, actually. Whatever they did to our engines, we're running at 115% efficiency." Elena nodded but did not turn away from the window. "Maria, I want you to make detailed records of everything that happened here. Everything about the Seraphim. Everything they did for us. I want it stored in every database, taught to every child on Aurora Prime." "Yes, ma'am." "May I ask why?" Elena finally turned to face her. "Humanity is young, Maria. We're just starting to explore the galaxy. But I want every human to know about this. I want every person to remember that when we were dying in the dark, strangers came to save us and asked for nothing in return. I want us to remember this forever because someday we might be the ones who can help. Someday we might be strong enough to save someone else. And when that day comes, I want us to remember what real kindness looks like." Maria smiled. "I'll make sure of it, Captain." Endeavor's hope continued its journey to Aurora Prime. The colony thrived. Children grew up hearing the story of the energy beings who saved 22,000 lives. A massive memorial was built in the center of New Phoenix, the first city with the words Elena Vasquez had spoken carved in stone. "We will remember. We will come." Every human child learned about the Seraphim in school. The story became part of human culture, part of what it meant to be human. Artists painted images of the glowing ships. Musicians composed symphonies inspired by the beings of light. Philosophers debated the meaning of their selfless help. The Seraphim frequency was programmed into every human ship, kept active and monitored, maintained out of respect and hope that someday humanity might hear from their saviors again. 95 years passed. The galaxy turned. The Seraphim continued their peaceful wandering among the stars, helping where they could, asking for nothing. They had long since forgotten the young species called humanity. One rescue among thousands across the millennia, they had no way of knowing that humanity had not forgotten them. That every human who traveled the stars carried the memory of that debt. That human culture had been shaped by the kindness of beings who expected nothing in return. The Seraphim could not have known that they had given humanity something more valuable than technology or repairs. They had given humanity an example, a standard to aspire to, a vision of what advanced civilization could look like when it chose compassion over conquest, and they could not have known that humanity was growing stronger with each passing year, building new technologies, expanding across dozens of worlds, becoming a force in the galaxy, all while carrying a debt that could never be repaid. but debts have a way of coming due, and promises have a way of being kept. The Seraphim were about to discover what it meant to have humanity as a friend. They were about to learn that humans never forget a favor, and in the dark times ahead, they would learn that human gratitude could be as fierce and terrible as human wrath. The darkest. Called the Bridge of the Sentinel's watch was quiet in the way only deep space could make it. Commander Marcus Chen had been staring at sensor readouts for 6 hours, watching empty space scroll past on the monitors. His patrol vessel was 3 months into a standard reconnaissance mission, mapping systems on the frontier of human-explored space. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Marcus was thinking about his daughter back on Earth, when the communications system activated with a sound he had never heard before. Commander. Lieutenant Sarah Park called from her station, her voice sharp with surprise. I'm picking up a transmission on the Seraphim frequency. Marcus sat up straight. Every human officer knew about the Seraphim frequency. It was monitored constantly across all human vessels, maintained for 95 years, even though no one had ever received a signal on it. The Seraphim had saved the Endeavor's hope nearly a century ago and then vanished back into the galaxy. Most people thought they would never hear from them again. You certain? Marcus asked, already moving to her console. Positive, sir. It's definitely their frequency pattern. But the signal is badly degraded. It's been traveling through space for a long time. Can you clean it up? Sarah's fingers flew across her controls. Working on it now. The computer is having trouble with the translation protocols. These energy-based transmissions are difficult to decode. Marcus watched the waveforms scroll across the screen. Even corrupted and broken, the signal carried a strange beauty. It reminded him of music, of light turning into sound. But underneath the beauty, he could sense something else. Something desperate. I've got it, Sarah said suddenly. Audio translation coming through now. The speakers activated. The voice that emerged was the same gentle musical tone that had been recorded 95 years ago. But this time, the music was broken, strained, filled with pain. This is Radiance through stars of the Seraphim. We are under attack. Our sanctuary worlds are being destroyed. We cannot fight. We can only run. If anyone receives this message, please help us. Please, we are dying. The message repeated 3 times and then dissolved into static. Marcus stood frozen, his mind racing. The Seraphim. The beings who had saved 22,000 humans and asked for nothing in return, they were calling for help. How old is this transmission? He asked quietly. Sarah checked her readings. For weeks, sir. It's been traveling through space for 4 weeks before we picked it up. 4 weeks. The Seraphim could all be dead already. Or they could still be running, still hoping someone would hear and come. Marcus made his decision in seconds. Plot a course for the transmission origin point, maximum speed, and Sarah, send this message back to Earth with priority alpha clearance. Mark it for the Unified Assembly Council. Sir, that will take us deep into unexplored space. We should wait for orders. We are the closest ship, Marcus said firmly. We don't have time to wait. The Seraphim came for us when we needed them. Now we go to them. Set the course. The message reached Earth 6 days later. It arrived during a routine session of the Unified Human Assembly and within minutes. Every screen in the chamber was showing the translated Seraphim distress call. The room erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate action. Others called for caution, for more information, for careful consideration of the risks. The debate grew heated, voices rising in anger and confusion. Then an old woman stood up from the visitor gallery. Dr. Sarah Kim was 143 years old. She had been 7 years old when the Endeavor's hope was saved by the Seraphim. She had been one of the 22,000 colonists, sleeping in cryopods when strangers came from the darkness to save them. Now she was a professor of xenobiology, a legend in human space, and one of the last living witnesses to the Seraphim's kindness. The room fell silent when she rose. I was a child, Sarah said, her voice clear despite her age. I was sleeping in a cryopod when my parents brought me aboard the Endeavor's Hope. I was dreaming of the new world we were going to see. I never knew that we were dying, that our ship was falling apart, that in a few more hours I would have suffocated in my sleep. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every representative. Strangers came to save us. Beings we had never met, who owed us nothing, who had no reason to help. They gave us materials that took them decades to gather. They worked through the night to repair our ship. They asked for nothing. They expected nothing. Sarah's hands gripped the railing in front of her. Captain Elena Vasquez made them a promise 95 years ago. She said if they ever needed us, we would come. Every human who knows that story knows we meant it. I have spent my entire life teaching students about the Seraphim, teaching them that advanced civilization is measured not by weapons or conquest, but by compassion. She paused, and her voice hardened. The Seraphim saved 22,000 of us when we had nothing to offer them. Now they are dying. Now they need us. So I am asking this assembly, are we going to keep our word? Or are we going to prove that our promises mean nothing? The vote took less than 4 hours. It was unanimous. Every human colony mobilized for war. The military branches coordinated the largest fleet assembly in human history. Corporate entities provided resources without question. Even civilian ships volunteered to join the effort. News spread through human space like fire. On Aurora Prime, the colony that the Seraphim had saved, millions gathered at the memorial. They laid flowers and wept for the beings who had given them life. Veterans of the Endeavor's Hope, now in their 90s and hundreds, gave interviews and told their stories again. They saved us, one old woman said, tears streaming down her face. They did not have to. They just did. Now it's our turn. Admiral Jonathan Price was chosen to command the fleet. He was 48 years old, brilliant, and absolutely ruthless when necessary. He had grown up on Aurora Prime, raised on stories of the Seraphim. Like every human, he had been taught that the debt must someday be repaid. Jonathan stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UHSN Redemption, and watched the fleet assemble around him. 350 warships, each one carrying the finest technology humanity had developed in 9 to 5 years. Carriers and destroyers and battleships and cruisers, all gathering for one purpose. Admiral, his second-in-command, said quietly, "Some of the other species are asking why we are doing this. They say the Seraphim are probably already dead, that we are risking human lives for ghosts." Jonathan did not look away from the view screen. The Seraphim saved 22,000 humans when they had every reason not to. When it cost them resources they could barely spare. When they gained nothing from it, turned to face his officer. "We are not doing this because it is smart or profitable or safe. We are doing it because they were kind to us when we needed it most. We are doing it because humanity keeps its promises. And we are doing it so every species in this galaxy learns what happens when you hurt our friends." The fleet prepared to depart. Engineers ran final checks on weapons systems. Marines loaded onto dropships. Medical teams prepared for casualties. Everyone knew this might be a one-way trip. Everyone came anyway. Marcus Chen and the Sentinel's watch reached the coordinates from the distress call first. What they found made his blood run cold. The sanctuary world was dead. The structures that had once housed the Seraphim were shattered, reduced to floating debris that glittered sadly in the light of a distant star. Massive craters scarred the surface of 3 moons. Energy readings showed the residue of weapons fire, concentrated and systematic. Commander Sarah reported, her voice tight. "I'm reading wreckage from at least 30 Seraphim vessels, and I'm detecting another presence. Multiple ships in orbit around the 4th planet. They are not Seraphim." Marcus pulled up the tactical display. 7 large vessels hung in space, angular and aggressive. Their hulls were dark metal covered in weapon emplacements. They looked like predators. Scan them. I want to know who they are. The results came back in minutes. "Species designation unknown, sir. But their technology is advanced. Plasma weapons, quantum shields, graviton drives. And Commander, I am reading life signs. There are Seraphim on those ships. Captive." Marcus felt cold rage settle in his chest. The Seraphim were prisoners. The beings who had saved his species, who had asked for nothing, were being held by these unknown attackers. Battle stations. Charge all weapons and send a message back to the fleet. Tell Admiral Price we have found the enemy. The alien ships detected the Sentinel's watch and moved to intercept. One of them opened a communications channel. The face that appeared on screen was reptilian, with dark scales and cold, calculating eyes. The creature looked vaguely like Earth's ancient lizards. These had evolved intelligence and cruelty in equal measure. I am Commander Sarthex of the Varathian Collective, the alien said. The universal translator rendered its voice as cold and emotionless. You are in claimed territory. Depart immediately or be destroyed. This is Commander Marcus Chen of the Human Defense Force. You are holding Seraphim prisoners. Release them immediately. Sarthex laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. The energy beings are resources. We harvest them for their quantum essence. It powers our weapons. You have no authority here, human. Leave now, no, Marcus said simply. Then you die. The Varathian ship fired first. Plasma bolts streaked across space toward the Sentinel's watch. Marcus's pilot threw the ship into evasive maneuvers, dodging most of the fire. The shots that connected splashed harmlessly against the vessel's shields. Return fire, Marcus ordered. Target their weapon systems. The Sentinel's watch was a small ship, designed for reconnaissance, not combat. But humanity had not been idle for 95 years. Human weapons technology had advanced significantly. The ship's railguns opened up, firing magnetically accelerated projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. The projectiles tore through the Varathian ship's shields like paper. Explosions blossomed across its hull. The alien vessel tried to retreat, but it was too slow. A second volley crippled its engines. Broadcast on all frequencies, Marcus said. Tell them we are here for the Seraphim. Tell them to release their prisoners and leave this system, or we will destroy them all. The Varathians did not respond with words. The other 6 ships moved to attack positions. Marcus smiled grimly. So be it. All weapons free. Show them what happens when you hurt our friends. The battle lasted 18 minutes. The Sentinel's watch danced between the Varathian ships, using superior speed and maneuverability to avoid their fire. Human weapons cut through alien shields with devastating efficiency. One by one, the Varathian vessels were crippled or destroyed. When it was over, Marcus ordered boarding teams to the remaining intact ship. They found 47 Seraphim in containment cells, their energy forms dimmed and damaged. The Varathians had been draining their essence slowly, painfully. Extracting the quantum energy that made up their bodies, Marcus himself went to the holding cells. He found an old Seraphim. Its light faded to barely a flicker, suspended in an energy cage. When the cage deactivated, the being collapsed. Marcus caught it gently. You are safe now, he said softly. We are human. We remember you. We came. The Seraphim's light brightened slightly. You came. After so long, you remembered. We're human, Marcus repeated. We always remember. The main human fleet arrived 3 weeks later. Admiral Jonathan Price reviewed the data from the Sentinel's watch and the rescued Seraphim. The intelligence was horrifying. The Varathian Collective was a massive empire spanning hundreds of systems. They had discovered the Seraphim 5 years ago and immediately began hunting them. The Seraphim could not fight. Their entire civilization was built on peace and exploration. They had no weapons, no armies, no defenses. When the Varathians came, all they could do was run. 6 of the 9 Seraphim sanctuary worlds had been destroyed. 150 million Seraphim had died. Only 8,000 survived, scattered and hiding in the dark between stars. Jonathan called his senior officers together. The Varathians have a homeworld, a throne world called Varathia Prime. 80 billion of them live there. Their entire military command structure operates from that world. If we destroy it, their empire collapses. That is genocide, Admiral, one officer said quietly. 80 billion lives. They killed 150 million Seraphim, another officer shot back. Peaceful beings who never hurt anyone. Where was mercy then? The debate grew heated. Jonathan let them argue. He needed to hear every perspective. This decision would define humanity for generations. If they did this, there was no going back. Finally, he raised his hand for silence. Play the recording from the Varathian harvesting station. The room speakers activated. The sound that emerged was not words or screams. It was seraphim singing. Their death songs, recorded as the Varathians drained their essence. Beautiful and horrible, the music of beings dying in agony. Jonathan let it play for a full minute before shutting it off. In the silence that followed, he saw tears on many faces. The Varathians did this, he said quietly. Not to warriors. Not to soldiers. Two peaceful beings whose only crime was existing in a way the Varathians found useful. They hunted them across the galaxy. They tortured them for profit. They killed 150 million innocent lives. He looked around the room. Captain Elena Vasquez promised the Seraphim 95 years ago that if they ever needed us, we would come. Every human knows that story. Every person in our civilization was taught that promise. So now I am asking you, what does that promise mean if we come here with half measures? If we fight and lose because we were not willing to do what was necessary? The vote was not unanimous. Some officers refused to participate, but the majority agreed. They would strike at Varathia Prime with everything they had. The human fleet traveled through Varathian space for 2 months, following the trail of destruction back to its source. Every system they entered showed the same horror. Shattered seraphim structures, broken vessels. Evidence of systematic genocide. Admiral Price sent teams to rescue every seraphim survivor they found. 3,000 more were recovered from hidden refuges and harvesting stations. Each one was treated with infinite care, given medical attention and protection. An old seraphim named Luminan Sovdan was among the rescued. It had been the speaker who first contacted the Endeavor's Hope 95 years ago. Now it was ancient and damaged. Its light faded to pale silver. Jonathan met with Luminan Sovdan in the medical bay. The being looked at him with eyes that had seen too much suffering. "You came," it said. "We sent our call into the void, hoping someone would hear. We never expected it would be the young ones we helped so long ago." "You're not so young anymore," Jonathan replied gently, "and we never forgot what you did for us. Now we will do the same for you. What will you do to stop them?" Jonathan was quiet for a long moment. "We are going to destroy their home world. We are going to make sure they can never hurt anyone again." Luminan Sovdan's light flickered through several colors. "So much death. So much destruction. This is not the path of peace." "No," Jonathan agreed. "It is the path of justice. The Varathians made their choice when they started killing your people. Now they face the consequences. Will this not make you like them?" Jonathan shook his head. "We are nothing like them. They killed for profit. For resources. Because they could. We kill to protect. To stop a genocide? To keep a promise made 95 years ago by a captain who believed in honor." He leaned forward, his voice gentle but firm. "You saved us when we were weak. You showed us what kindness looks like. We learned from you. But we also learned that kindness must sometimes be defended with strength, that peace must sometimes be protected with force." Luminan Sovdan was silent for a long time. Finally, its light steadied to a soft blue. "Then do what you must. But remember who you are. Remember that vengeance and justice are not the same thing." "We'll remember," Jonathan promised. "We always remember." Part 3. Worlds Break. Promises keep Varathia Prime hung in space like a monument to arrogance. The planet was massive, orbiting a red giant star in the heart of Varathian territory. 80 billion Varathians lived on its surface, in sprawling cities that covered 3 continents. The throne world of an empire that had stood for 5,000 years. It's built on conquest and exploitation. Admiral Jonathan Price stood on the bridge of the Redemption and studied the tactical display. Varathia Prime was defended by 12 orbital weapons platforms and a home fleet of 1,200 warships. The defenses were formidable, designed to repel any invasion, but humanity had not come to invade. They had come to destroy. All ships report ready, Admiral, his tactical officer announced. 350 vessels in attack formation. Marines standing by. All weapon systems charged. Jonathan took a deep breath. This was the moment. The decision that would define humanity for centuries to come. He thought about the Seraphim singing their death songs in Varathian torture chambers. He thought about Captain Alina Vasquez making a promise 95 years ago. He thought about the 8,000 Seraphim survivors hiding in the dark, hoping someone would save them. Open a channel to the Varathian fleet, he ordered. The face that appeared on screen was reptilian, covered in elaborate markings that indicated high rank. The Varathian looked at Jonathan with cold disdain. "I am Supreme Commander Vareth of the Varathian Collective," the alien said. "You are human. We have heard of your species, young. Weak. You have entered our territory without permission. Surrender immediately, or be destroyed." "I am Admiral Jonathan Price of the Human Defense Force," Jonathan replied calmly. "You have attacked the Seraphim. You have killed 150 million peaceful beings. You have tortured them, harvested them, and treated them like resources. We are here to stop you." Brath laughed, a harsh sound. "The energy beings are nothing. Cattle to be used as we see fit. Just as you will be cattle when we conquer your worlds. You have 300 ships. We have 1,200. Your invasion ends here." "You misunderstand," Jonathan said quietly. "We are not here to invade. We are here to teach you what happens when you hurt our friends. What happens next is not a battle. It is an execution." He cut the connection before Varath could respond. "All ships, begin the assault. Target the orbital platforms first, then the fleet, then the planet." The Varathian fleet moved to intercept, confident in their numerical superiority. They expected a conventional battle, ship against ship, tactics and maneuvers. A fight they could win through sheer numbers. They were wrong about everything. The human fleet had not been idle for 95 years. While the Varathians built bigger ships and more guns, humanity had been innovating, researching, developing. Technologies that pushed the boundaries of physics, Captain. Lisa Rodriguez commanded the carrier Endless Sky. Her ship launched 200 fighter craft, small vessels equipped with quantum displacement drives. The fighters flickered in and out of normal space, making them nearly impossible to target. They streaked through the Varathian formation like ghosts, dropping plasma bombs with surgical precision. 3 orbital platforms exploded in the first 10 minutes. Commander David Kim led a squadron of destroyers equipped with graviton weapons. These devices manipulated gravity itself, creating localized fields that crushed enemy ships like tin cans. Varathian vessels tried to maneuver away, but gravity could not be dodged. Ship after ship collapsed under impossible forces, their hulls imploding. 6 more platforms were destroyed. The battleship, Unbreakable, carried humanity's most devastating weapon, a stellar disruptor cannon. The weapon fired a beam that temporarily destabilized fusion reactions. Captain Emma Santos targeted one of the massive Varathian dreadnoughts and fired. The beam struck the enemy ship's reactor. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the entire vessel detonated in a flash of light as its power core went supercritical. The explosion took out 5 other Varathian ships nearby. The battle was not even close. Human technology was a century ahead of Varathian designs. Better shields, better weapons, better tactics. The Varathians were fighting yesterday's war. Humanity was fighting tomorrow's. Within 2 hours, the orbital platforms were destroyed. The Varathian fleet was in full retreat, scattered, and broken. 800 ships had been reduced to 300, and those survivors were fleeing in panic. Now came the hard part. Jonathan called a meeting of his senior staff. The fleet is defeated. The defenses are down. We can bombard Varathia Prime from orbit, or we can deploy ground forces and occupy the planet. I want opinions. Neither option stops the genocide, Colonel Sarah Martinez said. Even if we occupy this world, the Varathians have hundreds of colonies. They will regroup and continue hunting the Seraphim, unless we remove their ability to do so, Commander Robert Lee suggested quietly. Unless we make an example so severe that no Varathian ever thinks about hunting peaceful species again. Everyone knew what he meant. The room fell silent. Finally, Dr. Michael Torres spoke up. He was the fleet's senior xenobiologist. I have spent my career studying alien life. I believe all sentient beings have value, but I also saw what the Varathians did to the Seraphim. I saw the harvesting stations. I heard the death songs. He looked at Jonathan. The Varathians are not going to stop. They see other species as resources, as things to be used. If we occupy their worlds, they will wait us out. If we blockade their space, they will find ways around it. The only way to truly stop them is to show them what happens when they prey on the defenseless. You were talking about killing 80 billion people, another officer said, her voice shaking. I am talking about saving the 8,000 Seraphim who are still alive, Michael replied, and preventing the next genocide, and the one after that. The Varathians have killed dozens of species over their history. We have the records. They are predators who see kindness as weakness. The debate continued for hours. Some officers argued passionately against planetary destruction. Others demanded justice for the Seraphim. The room was divided almost evenly. Jonathan listened to every argument. Finally, he stood up. We will strike Varathia Prime with planet-breaker weapons. We will destroy this world as a message to every predator species in the galaxy. But first, we broadcast a warning, sir. His communications officer asked. Open a channel on all Varathian frequencies. Planetary broadcast. I want every person on that world to hear this. The channel opened. Jonathan spoke clearly and calmly. People of Varathia Prime, I am Admiral Jonathan Price of the Human Defense Force. Your leaders made a terrible choice. They attacked a peaceful species called the Seraphim. They killed 150 million innocent beings. They tortured them for profit and treated them like resources. Paused. 95 years ago, the Seraphim saved 22,000 humans from certain death. They asked for nothing in return. They simply helped because it was right. Humanity does not forget favors, and we do not forgive those who hurt our friends. Jonathan's voice hardened. You have 6 hours to evacuate this planet. Every ship, every shuttle, every escape pod. Take your families and run. Anyone who remains after 6 hours makes the choice to stand with your empire and its crimes. He leaned forward. Your leaders chose genocide. Now you face justice. 6 hours. Choose wisely. Transmission ended. On Varathia Prime, chaos erupted. Families fled for the spaceports. Ships launched in every direction. Some Varathians refused to leave, defiant to the end. Others ran, carrying children and precious belongings. The human fleet waited. 6 hours passed like years. When the time expired, Jonathan gave the order. All ships, deploy planet-breaker weapons. Target the tectonic plates and atmosphere processors. End this. The bombardment began. Kinetic impactors rained down on Varathia Prime, massive projectiles moving at near-light speed. When they struck, they released energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. The planet's crust cracked under the assault. Atmospheric incinerators followed. These weapons ignited the air itself, creating firestorms that swept across continents. Cities burned. Oceans boiled. The surface of Varathia Prime turned into a hellscape of fire and destruction. Finally, the tectonic disruptors activated. These devices targeted the planet's core, triggering massive earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. The world tore itself apart from the inside. It took 8 hours. 8 hours to reduce a thriving world into a broken shell. 30 billion Varathians died. 50 billion had evacuated in time, fleeing to colony worlds across their empire. When it was done, Jonathan broadcast again on all Varathian frequencies. This is humanity's response to genocide. This is what happens when you touch our friends. Varathia Prime is gone. Your command structure is destroyed. Your empire is over. Paused, letting his words sink in. You have one chance to survive. Every Varathian vessel will stand down immediately. Every prison will be opened, every captive freed. You will release all Seraphim survivors and return all stolen property. Jonathan's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but every Varathian in the galaxy heard it clearly. Or we will visit every one of your colonies. We will shatter every planet you hold. We will hunt you across the stars until your species is nothing but a memory and a warning. His eyes were cold as winter. Humanity never forgets a favor, and our revenge shatters planets. Choose wisely. You have 12 hours. The Varathian collective collapsed within 3 weeks. Without Varathia Prime and their central command, the scattered fleets turned on each other. Warlords declared themselves the new supreme commander and fought for control. Colonies refused orders from anyone. The empire that had ruled for 5,000 years tore itself apart. Surrender requests flooded in. Hundreds of Varathian colonies, seeing what happened to their homeworld, chose to submit rather than fight. The human fleet spread across former Varathian territory, accepting surrenders and liberating prisoners. Commander Marcus Chen led teams to shut down every harvesting station. They found more Seraphim in each one, thousands of them, damaged but alive. The humans treated them with infinite gentleness, carrying the energy beings to medical ships and healing them with technology. Shared by the Seraphim themselves, some were too damaged to survive. They died in human arms, singing their final songs. But 5,000 more were saved. Combined with the earlier rescues, 8,000 Seraphim had survived the genocide. The galaxy watched in shock. Humanity had destroyed one of the most powerful empires in known space. They had shattered a planet and shown no mercy to those who committed atrocities. Everyone expected the humans to claim Varathian territory for themselves. Instead, humanity did something unexpected. They helped rebuild. Admiral Price established humanitarian stations across Varathian space, providing food, medical care, and resources to colonies struggling without their central government. The humans did not occupy the territory. They did not claim the worlds or resources. They simply stabilized the region and prevented chaos. But they were absolutely ruthless about justice. War crime tribunals were established on a neutral world. Every Varathian who participated in the Seraphim genocide was brought to trial. The evidence was overwhelming. The trials were public. The galaxy watched as Varathian commanders and scientists stood before human judges. Some showed remorse. Others remained defiant, claiming they followed orders. The verdicts were harsh, but fair. Life imprisonment for the guilty. No executions. Humanity had decided they would not become the monsters they fought against. While justice proceeded, humanity began building something beautiful. The sanctuary system was constructed between Mars and Jupiter. In stable orbits, where the Seraphim could live safely, engineers built crystalline structures based on Seraphim designs, creating homes that felt familiar to the survivors. Gardens were planted with species from dozens of worlds. Humans and Seraphim worked together, just as they had 95 years ago. Alina Chen, the great-great-granddaughter of Alina Vasquez, oversaw the construction. She was 32 years old and had been raised on stories of the original promise. Now she fulfilled her ancestors' oath. She walked through the partially completed sanctuary and found luminance of dawn, examining a crystal garden. The ancient Seraphim's energy form had brightened considerably, healing in the safety humanity provided. "Do you like it?" Alina asked. Luminance dash dawn turned, its face shifting through colors. "It is beautiful. You have honored your promise beyond anything we could have imagined." "You saved us when we were nothing," Alina replied. "When we were weak and helpless. Now we are strong. Now we can protect you. It is the least we can do." "You've destroyed a world for us," Luminance Subdon said quietly. "Killed billions. Was it worth it?" Alina was silent for a moment. "I do not know if it was worth it. I do know it was necessary. The Varathians were committing genocide. They would not have stopped. Sometimes peace must be defended with force." She looked at the ancient being. "We learned from you. You taught us that kindness matters, that helping others is important. But we also learned that kindness without strength is vulnerability. That compassion must sometimes be backed by the willingness to fight. Luminance of dawn's light pulsed thoughtfully. You have become a powerful species. What will you do with that power? What you would do? Alina said simply. We will explore. We will learn. We will help those in need. And we will protect our friends. We will never forget the debt we owe you. And we will make sure the galaxy remembers what happens to those who prey on the peaceful. We learn from the best teachers. Now we try to live up to that example. Sanctuary was completed 6 months later. 8,000 seraphim moved into their new home, safe and protected by human defenses. Medical teams worked with seraphim healers to help the damaged recover. Cultural exchanges began. Children from both species learned together. 200 years passed. The seraphim population grew slowly but steadily, reaching 500,000. They resumed their peaceful wandering of the galaxy. But now they traveled with human escorts, protected, safe. Humanity expanded across 100 worlds. They explored new systems and made contact with dozens of species. And everywhere they went, they told the story of the seraphim, of beings who saved them when they had nothing to offer, of a debt that shaped an entire civilization. The galaxy learned a new truth. Humanity never forgot a favor, but they also never forgot those who harmed their friends. Varathia Prime remained a shattered warning, visible for light years. A monument to what happened when predators made the mistake of hurting those humanity loved. In the sanctuary, old luminance of dawn sat with human children and told them stories. Stories of the first contact of Captain Alina Vasquez and her promise, of Commander Marcus Chen finding them in the darkness. A young girl named Maya asked, "Will we always protect the seraphim?" Luminance Savon's light shifted to warm gold. Yes, little one. Because humanity keeps its promises. Because your people understand that strength without compassion is cruelty. But compassion without strength is vulnerability. And because an old seraphim nearby added, kindness given freely is never forgotten. Debts of honor last forever. Maya smiled. We will always remember. We will always come when you need us. We know, Luminan Suvdan said softly. We know. In the darkness between stars, on 1,000 human worlds, the story continued to be told. The never-ending story of how humanity learned the true meaning of gratitude. How they proved that promises made in darkness were kept in the light. How they showed the galaxy that mankind never forgets a favor, and their revenge shatters planets.